Well, good evening. It's great to see all of you here. Welcome to the Safer Whitehall Town Meeting. This is going to be a great night. We're just so happy that you are here. My name is Claude Davis, and I'm the pastor here at New Life Whitehall, and we are so thankful to have all of you here. I want to thank Chief Crispin and the whole police department for giving us this opportunity, this privilege to be able to host this event. So as we get started, I would just like to pray for us, if you would like to. Let's pray. Well, Jesus, we thank you, Lord. We thank you that we have this day to live. We thank you for your love and your mercy and your grace. And Lord, we pray for this time, our time together here. May you just lead and let us, Father, just get to know you better by listening to what's going on in our beautiful city. Lord, we do want to pray for the officers slain over the weekend in Westerville and their families. Lord, it just shatters our hearts to think of those things, and we just pray for all of those the families that are going to live long and live missing their precious loved ones. Lord, we just thank you for them. We thank you for the support the community has poured out on them already. And we do want to also pray for all of the families of the slain in the school shooting yesterday. Lord, what a terrible tragedy that is. And we pray, God, that the church around Park Lawn would just gather around all of those families who've lost children and just care for them and help them get through this terrible time. And so today we thank you for our city. We thank you for our wonderful police department. We thank you for all you're doing in this place. And it's in your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. Well, it's, like I say, it's great to see you. You know, New Life Whitehall, we've been here about 2 years, and we love our city. And we're getting used to being here. We're loving what's going on here, all the great things going on. And so with that, it is my privilege to introduce to you our mayor, Kim Maggard.
Good evening. Thank you to Pastor Claude and this beautiful, beautiful church. I appreciate your presence in the community. You're bringing a lot of meaning to people's lives, and I want to say thank you. And they haven't been in this location very long, maybe about 4 months, I think, and they were at a location on Broad Street. And but they are committed to Whitehall and committed to being involved in Whitehall, and I think that's awesome, and I really, really appreciate it. And Pastor Claude, I'm glad that you talked about the Westerville police officers who are part of the Whitehall family and the fact that they're brothers in arms. Our testimony tonight about a safer Whitehall, not only will it mean that it'll make our citizens safer, but when we have a safe community, it will help to make our police officers' jobs a little bit easier to do and make them safer. And I appreciate all of you who have come out tonight, and I really appreciate your support of our Whitehall Police Department. Your support makes their job better. It helps the morale, and it helps them to know that people are supporting them and praying for them and uplifting them. Those things mean a lot. You may not think so, but it does. Their job is hard. They never know what's coming around the corner. So any type of support that you can give to them will just help them and help us as well to be a safer community where we can, you know, have wonderful things continue to happen. Tonight, we're going to learn a little bit more about our school resource officers and about ID theft and other things. And I know our police chief will probably be talking to you about some of the great statistics about crime continuing to go down in Whitehall as well. So I'm going to go ahead. I've talked enough because we're here to see other things, not me. And I would like for our Chief Mike Crispin to come up. Thank you.
start by saying thanks to both of you, Pastor Claude and the mayor, for making a mention of the Westerville officers. They're absolutely correct that is something that touches the heart of all law enforcement, but also to everybody in the community. That's when you actually see when we always talk about that silent majority, you know, the ones who really aren't out there and throwing things and carrying on, the ones who really do support their law enforcement. You see them come out in the streets and in these communities when this stuff happens, not just in Westerville, but all over Franklin County, the country, to be honest. I would like to make, since you mentioned, Mayor, what some of the officers were doing and how they're coalescing. Some of our officers, a lot of our officers, including other agencies, are up there at Westerville and working the streets for them so they can have their time to deal with their families. But I would like to take a special moment, if you know him. I think it's important for me to at least mention Sergeant Brian Smith. Sergeant Brian Smith has taken it upon himself to work with that department. He has a really good friend there. And he's doing his duties there, but then he's got all the access to all their computers and stuff, and he's doing work from his house. Every moment he's awake. He's doing everything he can to manage their streets for them and their schedule. And so while he's not here, he couldn't be here because he's doing that. If you know him, please give him a little thanks for that, because that agency really needed his help, and he's just, I don't even know how he's sleeping, to be quite honest, or if he even is, to be quite honest. But that said, if you guys wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate if we just take a quick moment of silence for those officers, if you would, for me, just real quick. Thank you. And I would also, again, Pastor Claude, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to use your facility. I know you said it was your privilege. It's our privilege, too, to come here. This is a great place, a beautiful place. This is my second time being in here for something similar. And it's a wonderful building. And so thank you so much for letting us use it. And Joe, for all your help setting up the technology. He's back here. He's not done yet. He's got work to do after we leave, right? So, and Mayor, thank you for your support, and the City Council. I know seeing some of you here. We have any of the Citizens Academy alumni here? There, look at all of them. Please keep your hands up, if you would. Everybody look around the room. And on top of that, I would also mention, how about Mobile Community Watch? Any of you in here too? There's some more. And the reason I've asked you, and give me just a second here. The reason I asked you for that is because tonight is about asking what you would to say for Whitehall, and what have you done today to keep Whitehall safer, or what extra can you do, and we're going to talk about some of those. And those two groups I just mentioned there, they volunteer their time to go help keep this community safe, whether they're at work or retired, but it's their time, and they come to the agency regularly to meet, to discuss about what they're going to do for the agency, and they also go out and patrol the streets, some of them. And so officially, I'd like to give them a round of applause for their work. And of course, I can't thank enough for the community for coming out. I really appreciate all of you coming out here. We have a few things we want to talk about, but it's really that's not what this is about as far as we're concerned. When we set the strategic plan in place, we promised to come and give you some statistics like the mayor said, but what we really want to do is sit down up here for a minute and answer some questions, because that's what this is really about, is for us to hear from you folks and let you ask us questions so that we're not driving the agenda, so that we're learning what you feel about what's going on with the police department and what extra attention we need in certain areas. And lastly, so I don't have to sleep on the couch, I would like to mention my beautiful wife, Doris, over here, came to support us tonight, so thank you. Plus, I get in trouble for embarrassing her. All right, let me see if this will work now. It was working. Someone's standing right in front of it. There you go. Maybe. Technology, right? Show water must have touched it. Let me turn it off and back on. Push it. There we go. So I thank these folks here. Now I think I got it. That was on me. Okay. So, real quick, I want to run over the strategic plan results, just like we said we would do each time we do this about a year or so ago when we started talking about this. Give you a little bit of an update on some of the stuff the mayor was mentioning. Can everybody hear me so I'm not stuck behind this mic? Or do you need it for back recording? Commanders updates, they'll come up and give you some updates, then we're going to have that discussion, which is what we really want, okay? So, one of the things that we started in the last quarter we were here, not here, but had our last town hall meeting, we talked about we were going to partner with the business community and start a program to address the theft problem. That occurred today. The first class with all the businesses was this morning. Sergeant Greb did that class, 4 hours, 4.5 hours, something like that. That class is our theft reduction and commerce safety, or we call it TRACS, but it's a small piece of that Safer Whitehall thing, and I'll talk real briefly on that. One of the things that Sergeant Greb talked about was what happens internally, right? There's a lot of things that can happen internally for theft and danger, and we had some school members there, so you saw a lot of the stuff from Florida with the schools down there. So we talked a little bit about some of that, some of the internal thefts, crime that occurs with domestic violence and things that can be brought into the businesses. But additionally, we want to talk about shoplifting, right? So one of the things that we've been looking at in our philosophy of this whole thing, in the Safer Whitehall concept, is we've been talking about what is the root cause, what is really driving all this stuff that we're dealing with in the community. And everybody seems to always talk about the violent stuff that happens and the drug problems, right? And so we were focusing on the violence and the drugs. But the violence and the drugs sure are what's causing us to feel like sometimes it's unsafe, but what's fueling those two things? And if you haven't figured it out, most of your drug users are probably not going to work for 40 hours a week and then going and taking that paycheck and buying drugs, right? So what we're focused on is this kind of stuff, right? The stuff where people are stealing things to fund that drug habit. And 67% last year, we're still over 65%. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's still over that right now for 2017. That 67% or higher of the crimes that occur in Whitehall are either theft or theft related. I think another additional 70+%, I can't remember the exact stat, but it was well over 70 of the crimes that occur in Whitehall are from people who don't live here, which probably wouldn't surprise you, right? So we have all this retail space and all this opportunity, we call it, for theft. And that theft is then fueling and paying for the drug use, which drug comes along, brings violence with it, and then all that drug and violence makes us who live here feel unsafe, right? So naturally, what if you reverse that, right? Let's go backwards and find out where it starts, and it starts with a theft. So we've been focusing on our strategic plan on theft initiatives, right? Arresting, and Deputy Chief Kelso will talk about some of those from last year and what's going on this year. But that last piece was getting the Chamber of Commerce and the business community to partner with us, learn some strategies on how to remove the opportunities of theft. And then ultimately, after they go to this class, to get a certificate and then start sticking these on their windows. All right, well, what does that mean if you start seeing this? If you start seeing this on business windows, that means, number one, they have been to class. But number two, if you're a person thinking about going and stealing from that place or committing crimes there, they have committed to the police department to prosecute. That's the biggest key. That's the number one thing. They're committed to prosecuting, which usually a lot of businesses just want to report for their insurance purposes, and then that doesn't really stop anything, right? So you're going to start seeing some of these on some businesses, and hope that keeps growing. I think the feedback this morning was pretty good. So today was our first one, and so we're real happy about that. I want to do this. I keep forgetting you got one up there. I don't have to look backwards, right? Some people, I recognize a lot of folks, but there's some people that may not have been here in some of these previous ones. So give me a brief second to explain why it is that we keep going over the same statistics, the same stuff, every time we have this town hall meeting. In 2016, when we were taking a look at this strategic plan, there was a couple things that were important to remember. These were the things that we were told we were dealing with, both as an agency and a city and from you folks in the community. This is what we're dealing with. These were high stats. These were some of the problems and perceptions of the city of Whitehall. So our number one goal was to bring some of that stuff down, but to also bring up the perception of Whitehall, because we knew a lot of that was perception-based, and a lot of it was coming from outside of Whitehall. So we had to create an atmosphere where this wasn't the best place to come and commit crime, right? So that's what our strategic plan surrounded. One of the things I did during that very first one, and I've repeated it each one, is to ask the community to still have some patience with us. And that patience, by that I mean crime rates, and I don't want to get into the definition of crime rates, especially when I got a crime analyst back here. Told her I'd mention her. Crime analyst back here who knows what these crime rates actually are and how you drive them up, and they're so confusing a lot to people. They say, what's your crime rate? Well, what are you actually talking about, right? Which rate? So rate is, I don't want to say that it's a bad thing, but it can be misleading. So in other words, the best way for me to explain it to you is if I wanted to take your crime rate to 0, which would be great, right? We have no crime in the city of Whitehall. I just don't arrest anybody, right? We send no arrests to Washington to the federal government, and by the end of that year, we would have a crime rate of 0, and everybody think we were super safe. We'd be the most unsafe place to be, right? On the other hand, you flip that, and we get aggressive and start doing some of the things we need to do in the areas I just mentioned, and particularly in some of our theft initiatives. Guess what's going to happen to those numbers of arrests? They're going to start to go up. And as they go up, by the end of the year, when we report that stuff to the federal government, they're going to turn around and say, your crime rate has increased in certain areas. That's going to be a true statement because we're doing that by design. So there were 3 areas that we asked a year ago for you to hold us accountable to. Hold us accountable to these burglaries, these robberies, and violent crime. Know that we're going to make the narcotics arrests go up. We're going to make the theft arrests go up by design. So it may appear as if the theft rate's going up and things are bad, but that's because of some of the initiatives that these guys are doing, right? So I have this up there to tell you at some point it should start to peak and go down because as they start realizing they don't want to be here, right? This isn't the place to come and steal. They start seeing a bunch of this. They start doing some jail time, and it begins to be a place that the risk outweighs the reward. So just bear with us while we're doing that. So 2017, Mayor, I was waiting to show them this, right? This is tremendous numbers for the first year. I wasn't even expected to be quite as good as it was, and we're fortunate. Hopefully it keeps going. But this is the numbers we were dealing with, right? If you take a look at violent crime, that's down 26% from 2016, all right? Robberies are down 35, 64% up increase in theft arrests by design because we're trying to make that happen, right? The narcotics arrests are up. Those things are important. And again, I mentioned what that cycle is we're focused on, right? we're trying to get to reducing these opportunities will start to make this go away and start to make us feel a lot safer, okay? I want to emphasize something that's very important to emphasize here on this. Our operations, our calls or people calling in, that's down 8%. That's good too. We're glad that calling for help is going down some. But what's most important is this number right here. Since 2005, we haven't seen a year without homicides. That was great. Knock on wood, I don't have one. But the crime rate for the violent crime is down. That's the lowest it's been since 2011. And robberies, the lowest since 1998. And burglaries, 1995, except it may be further than that. 1995 was the last record we had, so I don't know what 94 was, or 93, or 92. Could have been even. I just know that the last record we had, there wasn't any below 200, and we were below 200 in 2016. So that's a tremendous accomplishment by these police officers and the people that support them in the department, the crime analyst, the clerk's office, all the folks around the city that are supporting them, plus you folks are helping them telling us and tips and things about where we need to be. So that right there is we'd be happy. I would have been happy with that at the end of 3 years, let alone to be there at the end of 1 year, to be able to look at each and every one of you and say, the city of Whitehall's crime is the 3 most important things. 2 of them are at their lowest in almost 20 years. And that's tremendous, and that's because of those folks and things that they're doing. So. And of course, theft arrests are up, and they're going to keep going up, and narcotics are up. Just last year, we had 90,000 grams of drugs seized by our narcotics unit, $1.7 million in street value seized out of the city of Whitehall, $179,000 in narcotic currency was seized as well. So that's down a little bit, but what's that telling everybody? These guys in Whitehall are coming after you, right? And that's okay. That's that peak thing, right? We've had a very good narcotics section. It's been working good for years. So now they're starting to get the message that even if you come into Whitehall and sell and then run out real quick, our narcotics guys are going to come and find you. They don't care if you go to Portsmouth. They're going to come down there and grab you, right? And they're doing very good jobs with that. Great partnerships all over the state, right? So that was me real quick. And I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Kelso if he'll come up and cover some of the patrol stuff.
Thank you, Chief. If you don't know me, my name's Dan Kelso. I currently run Patrol and Operations Bureau over at the Police Department. So I'm just going to give you a brief little overview on a couple different things here. I want to tell you about our K-9 program. Last year we implemented a K-9 program. By the time we got everyone trained and up and running and all that kind of stuff, it was about December when we actually hit the road running with the dogs. We currently have 3 K-9s. 2 of them are trained to detect on drugs, and a third one is trained to detect on bombs. We're in the process right now of hiring a fourth officer, to be a 3rd drug dog. So we'll end up with the full unit will be 3 drug dogs and 1 bomb dog. That'll be probably done in the next 3 months. That'll be finalized, and the dog will be on the road. So just in this short time, essentially I have about a month's worth of stats. I have the end of December. I've got January, what we did, and then a week or so far in February. And just in that time, well, I want to tell you, in case you're wondering, why do you have a bomb dog? All these dogs are dual-purpose dogs, and what that means is they're each trained for a scent. They're each trained to detect on something, drugs, one's bomb, but they also serve a secondary purpose. That secondary purpose is they do tracking, they can chase down suspects, they can do article searches. In article searches, they can find, if you've touched it and you've thrown it, those dogs can find it. So we get guns tossed out of cars when guys run on us. We can set those dogs loose and they search around. It's amazing. I watched it a few times and they go right to those guns. I mean, they found little tiny bullets, as long as, you know, it's got a human scent on it. They do tracking, like I said, they do building searches, which is a big thing for us. We get a lot of building searches sometimes. Sometimes businesses accidentally leave their back doors open in the middle of the night. We go around checking that stuff. We find a back door open. Prior to this, officers got to go in there. There could be somebody waiting for us with a gun. We can lead with a dog now who can alert us if somebody's in there. So that's a big thing for us. So that's why we have the bomb dog serves a secondary purpose, and we use that dog a lot. He's a day shift dog, and we use him a lot for that secondary purpose. So anyway, here's some brief stats just in that amount of time. We've done 48 deployments with those dogs. In other words, we've used them for 48 specific different things in that last month. They've done 7 building searches. They've participated in 26 drug-related traffic stops and sniffs. And they've been instrumental in the arrest of 10 suspects outside of drugs. In other words, they've chased down and found 10 guys for us. And they've recovered cocaine, marijuana, crystal meth, morphine pills, 1 firearm, drug paraphernalia, and counterfeit currency. So that was in 1 month's time. We're really happy about that. Thank you. So his stats will probably be pretty amazing after 1 year. So the next thing I want to talk about is retail theft blitzes. So the chief said, well, we've got initiatives that are raising our stats in arrest for theft. And one of those initiatives that we have is what's called a retail theft blitz. I'm going to explain what I mean by blitz because I'm going to say that word like 3 or 4 more times tonight. So what a blitz is we focus on a specific area. We use a specific amount of resources to target a specific problem. So in this case, with a retail theft blitz, we partner with the stores in a certain area, and we saturate that area with undercover police officers, undercover narcotics officers. We put officers inside the stores, and we surround those businesses with officers. So then what happens is inside the store, say a shoplifting takes place. What normally happens is that store security, as you've seen, loss prevention, they'll stop somebody at the door, they bring them back to their office, they catch them, whatever, if they do catch them. And that's about that. Well, what we want to do is we want that person now to get outside because we know, as what the chief said, is they're there for drugs, and they're typically there with somebody else. And that somebody else, by the time normally loss prevention catches them, they book. They're gone before police ever arrive. We don't get those individuals. So now the idea is we want them to get into the lot. We want to see where they're going. We want to see what cars they're going to, who they're meeting up with, and that's when we snag them. And it's been tremendously successful. So what we've done is we've done 4 of those this year, and each time we target somewhere different, or we take 2 places. We'll take Town and Country Shopping Center and Target, or we'll do Walmart and the associated businesses around Walmart. We've done CVS, Walgreens, that area, Great Eastern Shopping Center. And we'll work with those stores. They'll sit inside, they'll call them out to us, and we'll catch them. Now, there's a secondary reason also we're outside is there's more going on in shopping parking lots than theft. You guys walking in and out of the store, you want to be accosted by panhandlers, people trying to maybe take your purse, all that kind of stuff. So we're watching all that. And we're watching for drug deals. We're doing it all at one time. We might dedicate 26, 30 people to this operation and have them all hidden in this parking lot. You guys have no idea. You're walking in and out of the store just like a normal day. Have no idea there's 30 cops sitting there watching everybody come in and out. So at time, and we did 4 of these last year, and we have more planned for this year, more planned for the year after that. We arrested 55 suspects on 87 different charges. And to give you an idea of, aside from theft and shoplifting, the additional charges included forgery, obstructing official business, falsification, grand theft auto, receiving stolen property with stolen cars, trafficking in food stamps, multiple felony warrants, resisting arrest, and a whole host of drug charges, including drug trafficking. So those all came along. That's what was outside that these people came to. We literally had people pull up in stolen cars and drop the shoplifter off and wait in the fire lane in a stolen car. So, yeah, it's amazing. So that's what's going on. We had guys pull up next to undercover police officers who were sitting there watching the door and do drug transactions as they looked into their cars, sitting there right in front of them. So that's what's going on outside. So we're hitting all that at the same time. That's what we got there. We also started this year doing directed patrols to try to curb a crash problem. It's not like Whitehall has got some kind of fatal crash problem. You don't read about a whole lot of fatal crashes. But if you do watch the news, you'll see that every year some of our intersections are on that top 15 or 20 list. I mean, we have a lot of cars that go through Whitehall. So they're Hamilton Broad. Those always seem yearly, and those seem to make that list. So we want to target and bring crashes down, make it safer for the citizens of Whitehall. So what we did is last year so far, we held 12 major directed traffic patrols and 5 or 6 smaller directed patrols. And what I mean by that is much like a blitz. We target a specific location, and we dedicate resources there 3, 4, 5 times a week to watch that location for bad behavior driving. We're not after people with expiration stickers that are wrong. We're after for behavior that causes traffic. And what I mean by major and minor is our crime analyst back here, each quarter she does an analysis for me. She finds out where predictively we're going to have our next crash zone. She does that off of data from last year. So what happened last year at this time? Where were the problems last year? What kind of driving behavior did we see last year? What did we see last quarter, and what do we expect to see this quarter? That ends up, believe it or not, boiling down to sometimes a segment, either an intersection or maybe a couple roads that we know are going to be our problem. And then she figures out what day of the week and what time of the week that we are most likely to have those problems. That's where we put the directed patrol. We watch for those. And it's been pretty, and then when I say minor patrols, those are when you guys call me. I get people call me all the time, hey, I got a problem on my street. There's speeding. Sometimes there's a problem, sometimes there's not. We look at data. I listen to your complaint. If we think that we can pull someone from one of those other things, if it's worth it, we do that. We try to help out the citizens. Most of the times those are smaller roads, maybe like Doney or a smaller road that's not really, we don't really have any crash data. I mean, we might have one crash in every 2 years there. But you're right, there's people speeding down the road, and that needs to be stopped. So we'll do smaller little directed patrols there too. So what we saw this year is 2017 to from 2016, we decreased accidents in the city of Whitehall by 10%, and we wrote 12% more traffic tickets for driving behavior, for bad behavior. So it's kind of remarkable how close that is in the statistics right there. It went down almost the exact same amount of tickets that we wrote. The next thing we want to talk about is drug blitzes. So we did retail theft blitzes. We do the same thing as drug blitzes. We held 4 of those last year. Same thing. We target it, and this is different than our narcotics bureau. This has nothing to do with the narcotics cases that they're working on or anything to that effect. What we do is we find specific areas in the city that we think that drug dealers might be coming in to sell a product to their buyers, okay, that people we don't even know. And we set up on those much like we'd set up on a retail store. This is a combined effort that we use our detectives, we use undercover units, we use marked patrol units, and we saturate that area. We start watching, we follow people, we follow bad guys that we know are bad guys. And by doing this, we made 35 arrests, including multiple felony warrant arrests. We recovered heroin, meth, powder cocaine, crack cocaine, marijuana, various pills, and one gun. So that was all off of just 4, and I'm talking just a few hours apiece on each one of these blitzes. We were able to do that. We even arrested one suspect that was wanted out of a big federal trafficking ring that the feds were after, so he fell into our net one night. So those are pretty good arrests for 4 of those. We intend to do more of those also. And then the last thing I was going to give you a little update on is human trafficking. I don't know in the last meeting how much we talked about that, but it's been a big initiative of the chief to start focusing on human trafficking. They've identified the east side of Columbus, not Whitehall specifically, but the east side of Columbus is becoming a big area for human trafficking. It's something that's not talked about. It's all these back pages where guys are trafficking these women, and these women don't really want to be in the situation that they're currently in. And the east side is becoming a hot point on that, and we need to get ahead of that problem. So we held our first ever human trafficking blitz. This was new to us, and we got the help of Ohio State Highway Patrol, Columbus Police Department, and the Central Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force. We all partnered together, held it one evening. We used 2 separate locations, and a group of guys don't even know what we're doing. We were able to make 9 arrests related to human trafficking. Excuse me. There was human trafficking, sex crimes, and a bunch of drug arrests. So that was our first attempt, and we got a whole bunch more of that planned in the future too. So we want to stop that problem before it comes here. So with that, that's a little update on what we got going on right now, and I'm going to call up Detective Sergeant John Greb. He's filling in tonight for Deputy Chief Sharpless to give you a little update on identity theft.
Good evening, everybody. And again, thanks for being here tonight. This is important. It's important to have the support from the community for us. We do recognize it, and it does mean a lot to us. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Just a quick thing about the Detective Bureau that I supervise. There are 6 detectives that work in the Detective Bureau. We're a small group, but we handle a lot of cases. I think last year we were in the neighborhood of 1,300 cases for the city. Almost exclusively those cases are felony crimes. So they're the major, your robberies, your burglaries, breaking and enterings, rapes, the big serious crimes. We pay attention to those crimes, and we take them very seriously. My guys work very hard. Out of those cases, I think they cleared almost all those cases. I think we had 150 or 200 cases that carried over from last year, but that doesn't mean they went away or they're not going to be investigated. They've just carried over. So they've been very successful in a lot of those cases in making arrests and prosecutions of those cases. So I'm proud to work with a small group of guys that work very hard. And we're also involved in all the other things that Patrol has. So, you know, it's a big family effort in the police department. We're not special or separate from them. We all work together to make things happen. So the chief wanted me to talk a little bit tonight about identity theft. There's some handouts that are available. I would encourage you to take one. If you haven't been associated with anybody that's a victim of identity theft yet, you soon will be. This is a very common problem. This is something that goes anywhere from your credit card number being cloned, which is an extremely common situation in this day and age. People are stealing just the credit card number and the magnetic information off the back of your card, and they're able to put that onto a gift card or other Visa type card, and it's free and clear. They're very difficult to identify who stole your credit card number, and it's also very difficult to find and identify a suspect in a lot of these cases. But when it happens to you, the Attorney General on their website, they have fabulous information for you and some things that they want you to understand and look for. what we want you to do is understand that the Attorney General's office can help you. And on their site, they have actual directions on what it is, and these are available in the handouts. But basically, they can provide you the information, and you can work on it yourself, contact the financial institutions, contact the credit bureaus, and try and get the problem cleared up by yourself. You can also ask them for help, and if you need that type of assistance, they can help you. How are you going to identify and look and see if you've been the victim of that? Some of the signs of that are immediately your bank account now all of a sudden is empty. You haven't spent your money and you're wondering why, and your credit card is in your pocket. That is probably the most common thing we see in identity theft. It's as simple as your card was used at maybe a fast food restaurant, and the worker there is working in collusion with somebody, and they're just swiping your card on a magnetic reader, and it is just that simple. By the time you get home, or by the time you finish eating your lunch, they've got your information, they've got what they need to go out and charge whatever they want. It's not always the dark web and all these things we see on TV that can cause you to be victimized. That information's out there, and certainly that happens, but most common for most of us is going to be something simple like that. Your bank can help you with that very quickly. They're going to ask you to file a police report. As long as you do that, you're going to be fine. But check your credit reports often. That's probably the most important thing that I could tell you. There are a variety of ways to do that free of charge. I think all the news channels in town have a link. They did at one point. The Attorney General's website has a link. Their link, you're able to check it 4 times a year with no charge. There's any number of paid services that you can use to monitor your credit. We've all seen the commercials for those. I'm a credit monitor, not a security guard. I just monitor. But, all those different things. Once you find out that you are the victim of an identity theft, the most important thing is to get a hold of the credit bureaus, get a hold of the particular credit card that's compromised, your bank, let them know immediately. They'll turn the cards off, and then that'll start the process for you. You get a police report filed, and you can go from there. You might find that you stop receiving certain mail, and you're wondering why you're not getting your credit card bill anymore. That can be a telltale sign that something's happened, somebody's gotten a hold of your credit. Once you are a victim of this credit card type things or other identity theft, certainly contact the police, contact your bank, contact the Attorney General, and they can help you out with all that. I would say a lot of times these are very simple things where somebody got your credit card number. The banks are really good at taking care of that. It takes some time, but they'll get to it. In a lot of these situations, though, be aware it's family members that may compromise your information. I would stress to you, we get these cases, we report it, we investigate the crime, we find out that somebody's son or daughter has stolen grandma's credit card information because grandma's in the home, nobody's paying attention to her bank accounts and her credit. Now all of a sudden there's thousands and thousands of dollars charged her. I would encourage every one of you, when that's identified, please prosecute. Too many times we get in these family situations and they say, well, it's just little Jimmy and we'll figure it out. The bank's going to help us out. No, we need to prosecute. We need to move forward so that these people stop doing this, okay? It's just the red that goes along with all the philosophies with the Safer Whitehall. It's hard to prosecute a family member, but we need to do it. So I would encourage you to take some time, get on the Attorney General's website. They have an entire packet of information. It's actually pretty comprehensive. It has the letters and templates for you to write to the credit bureaus, how to dispute charges on your credit card, how to do all those things. It's available for you, and it's a pretty quick and easy process. I will tell you it's going to be time-consuming, though, once you get started into this. And if you are in, if somebody gets a hold of your information and they buy a car out of state and all these kind of things, it's going to be a headache, but it can be taken care of. Just be patient and gather as much information as you can and keep all your records, okay? So that's what I have tonight. Okay, back over to the chief.
So I don't know if you can hear us up here. I'll grab this. I know you can hear Deputy Chief Kelso because they can hear him in California when he talks. So this is what we came here for. If you have some questions for us, we're ready to answer.
Okay. Again, that's a great question because we function in a society where we trust that the person we give our credit card to is going to take the care that we would give it. The way these skimmers work and the people that do it, it is as simple as, you know, how do you feel giving that credit card to the waitress and she leaves with it in a little book? It's gone. You don't know what's going on with it. At the drive-thru, you may not see who has your credit card. I would just be vigilant with what's happening with it. A lot of businesses that have been kind of the back end of this, that have been victimized themselves by one of their employees, they've set things up now so it's more visible to the customer. You'll notice in a lot of the fast food restaurants, the POS machine is out front. You don't have to hand your card to anybody anymore. And I think as we move forward, you're going to see more of that available in the drive-through situation where you don't have to relinquish your card. It'll be there for you to do that. But just be vigilant. Just, again, check your bank accounts frequently, check your credit frequently, pay attention to what's going on, and keep track of everything. Keep records of the cards that you have and the phone numbers to contact them. That's extremely important so you can call them right away. And that's good advice even if your wallet goes lost. Just knowing what's in your wallet so you can turn all that stuff off. Yeah, and he says use cash, but I'm not familiar with that medium.
My question is related to mail and package theft. We've heard of mail theft in other communities, like in Bexley, and we've heard of package theft in communities surrounding Columbus. Is that a problem in Whitehall, and how are you addressing it?
I would say that we're not immune to any problem. The same things occur here that occur everywhere else. We've not been identified as a center of some of these activities, but we have people in the city that were affected by mail thefts. Again, as things change in society, you know, that used to be 10 years ago, that was a very common problem. Your checks were stolen out of the mail while you were paying your bills and you put the flag up in your mailbox. Well, most people now pay online or they take the time to go to the post office and drop it there. Even doing that, it's not always a secure way to do it. It happens. The best thing you can do is if you can pay your bills online, that's a good way to guard against that. Then you're in control of your information. But then, again, you're on the internet, so you're susceptible to a lot of things on the internet, too, that you need to safeguard. So it's an all-encompassing thing, but just be vigilant and pay attention to what's going on. Package thefts, if you're ordering a product and you're not going to be there the day it's delivered, a lot of the companies will have an alternative address that they can drop something off if there's nobody home. You can ask for a signature required so that somebody has to be there to sign for your package and it doesn't get left on the front porch. Up to and including, I mean, if you're really worried about it, there are security cameras available now, and there's any permutation of these cameras down to just your doorbell. Is a company right now that has just a doorbell camera that when somebody comes on your porch or onto your property or near your garage door, it can activate that, and on your smartphone, you get immediate video of what's going on at your house. It just alerts you, and the camera comes on, and that's all done over the internet. So if you're worried about those kind of things, those are good options as well, and then you can know.
Good evening. I have a question about the panhandlers. There's quite a few who are frequent guests of Whitehall. And what do you
thing that's occurring that's causing a problem?
Well, certainly the most dangerous one that we see is running the red lights and running the stop signs. That gets that tangled crash. And yeah, that and OBIs, which is a impaired drivers. Those are certainly the ones that cause the most dangerous and high speeds. But we're focusing mostly on OBIs, red lights, unsafe lane changes where people are just getting over, how frustrating that is when someone gets right over and cuts you off. We're looking at that causes accidents because you swerve and hit the other guy and you didn't do anything wrong, that type of a thing. So that's what we're focusing on, of course, on drivers, on third shift. That's a big thing when we do those types of call routes.
And what happens to the confiscated dollars that you talked about when you have a drug arrest and all this money was captured?
Okay, what we do with that money is it gets part of the case, and when it goes down to the courts, we try to seize that money. Franklin County works with us on that. They get a percentage of it, and then it goes into something we call the law enforcement trust fund. And there's federal regulations, state regulations, local regulations on what we can do that money for. So we take that money, it's typically used for buying police equipment, furthering narcotics, as far as buying them more equipment, training, that, so it comes back into, we're not allowed to use it for the budget. So when you see the mayor submit her budget, she's not allowed to go, hey, I got all this money over here. So if you say, well, what are you doing with all that money? Why aren't you using it anymore? Well, she is, she's allowing us to use it for what we are allowed to do, but there is regulations on that. But essentially it comes back to be able to train police departments and further collect more back.
Yeah, it's also important to note and remember on that, because I don't want to let that slide by. We just talked about four potential canines. And all three of those canines, the cars, the equipment, their training, everything is funded through that drug piece.
We have maintained that, all of that.
Great, great. Now, you talked about the human trafficking. In those cases, who most often are arrested? Is it the clients, or are they the pimps, or who's getting arrested?
Okay, that's actually a simple question that has a complicated answer to it. On the human trafficking side of it, we changed our philosophy a little bit to recognize that the person being trafficked is actually the victim. They're not the cause of this. And we can go on and on and on about the social aspects of all this. But what we're after, what is driving all this, is the people that are using it. Okay, so when we have a list like this, it's very important that we include not just law enforcement, but social services are active in this. And this is what the Central Ohio Task Force, Human Trafficking Task Force brought with them. They had access to Salvation Army personnel is assigned to them as counselors. So when we have those cases, and in these cases, it's all these situations were ladies that arrived to a situation that we called them to, but they were brought there by somebody else. So the confrontation happened. We made contact with the female. She's taken into custody, but she's not taken into custody to be arrested. She's there. She gets immediate kind of mental health first aid from the Salvation Army. They talk to her. They offer some assistance. They work with them. And the law enforcement side, we go after the person that's brought them there, or the person that directed them there, and those kind of things. That's what we investigate on that end. Unless there's other circumstances, the person that's there being trafficked, they're not charged.
We didn't really talk about the school
wipe and check the balance on it. I know this has changed a lot over the years with that. Anybody that works for a business or does anything, the government will not call you and tell you to go take the business proceeds from the day to go buy 50 cars, CVS, and then send them iTunes gift cards. That doesn't happen. Okay? The IRS does not do that either. You cannot send the IRS iTunes gift cards. That's payment for your tax.
These are real scams with dollars.
So, just pay attention to those things again. With the identity theft, this is the season for the IRS scam, which is another form of the identity theft. Get your taxes filed with reputable companies, keep control of your information, lock that stuff up, don't leave it laying around, don't leave it in your car, just leave it on your car to secure your tax information. They may not use it this year, but next year they're going to be right early filing for it. And that is again an unpleasant situation. I think we had something posted on the website, on our Facebook. We did have our first IRS scam this year. The IRS typically mails you a letter first before they have any contact with you. So when you get a phone call from the IRS that says, you don't pay us $3,000, and come to a parking lot of the CVS with it, we're going to have you arrested, please. The Whitehall Police Department will not arrest you because you owe the IRS money. I don't like paying them either, I'm not going to get you. Okay, so, just be aware of those things. If something like that happens, please, 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 don't be embarrassed. Call us. Even if you fall victim to this, because again, knowledge is power. It might have happened to you, but if we don't know what's going on out there, we can't educate other people about what's going on, and we can't tell anybody else. And
So what